Hello, is this Jimmy Pearson? No, my name is Jimmy Greyhawk. My wife Connie kept her maiden name, Pearson. Well, this is Dr. Sahid Alwari. 6 months ago, your wife and I began an affair here in the hospital. What? What is this, a joke? No, she was one fine piece of ass and a great slut. Listen, I don't have time. The reason for my call is that I am about to return to Saudi Arabia, and about 2 months ago your wife left me for a new doctor, Gregory Zenger. I hope you are not a weak cuckold and will take revenge. Wait a minute. How do I know you're telling the truth? Well, if you get to storage room 506 at the hospital in the next 15 minutes, you can probably catch her and Gregory doing this. Sorry, my plane is landing. Good luck, cook. Jimmy was shocked. Was his beloved wife, the mother of his daughter, having sex with other men? It was too hard for him to believe. He was a slow man. His first thought was how to prove or disprove what he had heard. And then it occurred to him, Jerry. He was a neighbor of Jimmy, who worked as a security guard at the hospital where his wife, a nurse, also worked. He called Jerry on his cell phone. Hello, Jerry Austin Security, how can I help? Jerry, this is Jimmy. Listen, are you at work? Yes, I'm doing my rounds now. What's the matter? Maybe it's nothing special, but some Arab doctor just called me and said Connie was having an affair. She and some other doctor are supposedly having sex right now in storage room 506. Is there any way to get in there and, if she's there, take pictures? Guy, are you sure? Connie, no, I'm not sure. That's why I need you to find out. Please, I need this service. No problem. I definitely owe you for all the carpentry work you did for me. I'm already close. I'll let you know if I see anything and send you pictures if I do. I really hope this isn't true. You and Maddie deserve better. Thank you. While Jimmy waited, he tried to understand what was happening. He devoted his life to his wife and 10-year-old daughter. The house they lived in was built largely with his own hands in 3 years. Everything was built the way his wife wanted. As far as he knew, Connie was happy. Then he thought about the last 6 months. His wife began working longer hours and staying overnight when she only had a few hours between shifts. Their sex life had suffered, as he expected, given her work schedule, but she didn't complain about anything and seemed to enjoy their sex just as much as always. After all, she would never jeopardize their marriage and raise their daughter, would she? The wait was agonizing. The phone rang. Jimmy? I'm sorry, man, but your wife and Dr. Zender had sex like two horny teenagers. I have photos and videos to send you. I don't think they noticed me. I'm really sorry. If you want me to do anything else for you, let me know. After watching the video and seeing his wife eagerly having sex, Jimmy cried for one of the few times in his life. Dad? Maddie, what are you doing over there? Go back to bed, honey. Everything is fine. I heard the phone ringing, and then I heard you crying. What's the matter? I am 10 years old. I'm not a child. I need to know. Maddie was mature beyond her years. Jimmy had a hard time denying her anything because she always seemed to do the right thing. Upon reflection, he realized that this situation affected her as much as it affected him. I'm crying because I just received proof that your mother, how should I put it, loved another man in the hospital. I'm trying to figure out what to do. She's finishing work soon, and I think I should wait to talk to her then. I don't think she'll be coming home today. I overheard her telling someone on the phone that she was happy they were going to spend the whole night together. I thought she meant work. I think you should call her right now. Let's see what she says. Okay, maybe there is some good explanation. Jimmy was told not to call his wife on her cell phone while she was working unless there was an emergency. This is considered an emergency. After several rings, a breathless voice answered, Jimmy? Is something wrong with Maddie? You seem out of breath, honey. Are you okay? I didn't have my phone with me, so I had to run to get it. What's happened? The memory of the video recording removed any desire to be understanding. I thought you might have been short of breath because you just had sex with Dr. Zender. There was a long pause before she said, Oh, crap. He knows. Don't worry, Greg. I'll take care of it. This statement was made to another person in the storeroom. Jimmy, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I'm glad you know now. This is definitely not the answer I expected. I love you and our marriage, but I work so hard in life and death situations that I have to deal with a lot of stress. I deserve something more to handle all this responsibility. That's it. A little extra sex on the side to reduce stress. There's nothing special about it. This does not affect our marriage or the fact that I am the mother of our daughter. I'm afraid I don't quite understand it that way. Look, I need to get back to work. That's how it is. You have two options. 1. Let everything be as it is. We continue to raise our daughter. You get a loving wife who gives you sex from time to time, but sometimes has fun with sex with other men. Or 2, you file for divorce and I get half of our assets, the house and primary custody of Maddie. You will get every weekend and every other major holiday to visit your daughter. Here's how divorce works in our state. I guarantee that I will make your life miserable and find every excuse possible to cancel your scheduled visits. I know how much you love Maddie, so you really only have one choice. After I finish this shift, Greg and I will go to a motel and spend the night together. Tomorrow I'll work a regular day shift, and tomorrow night I'll come home and we can talk. You will see that it is better for you to just continue to live as you are. Bye. Jimmy and Maddie sat at the kitchen table and looked at each other, seeing anger, disappointment, and sadness fighting for dominance. Well, Maddie, I don't know what to do. I don't think I can live here knowing that your mom has sex with other men. If I file for divorce, I won't be able to see you every day. I don't think at your age a judge would let you choose who you want to stay with. If I move out, do you think you can stay here with your mother? Hell no. Maddie, Dad, I'm already a big girl. If I have a choice, I want to be with you. Looks like we don't have much choice. Dad, there is another choice. Which? Burn this bitch. What are you talking about? Remember my friend Beverly? Well, her dad caught Beverly's mom fooling around and just left. He took all the money he could and just disappeared. After some time, they caught him and arranged a terrible scam. You and I could leave her as little money as possible and just disappear. Her idea seemed quite feasible to Jimmy. Where will we go? You know where. Realizing what Maddie was offering, his father thought, I don't think they'll take me back. You can ask. I had a vision of us returning. Maddie was the granddaughter of the most respected spiritual director on the Turtle Mountain Chippewa Indian Reservation. Jimmy left the tribe when he joined the army with his buddy Tommy White Elk. He was an angry young man who disrespected his parents and his people and was cast out of the tribe. After serving in Iraq, his anger cooled and he reconnected with his mother. During the time he was alone with Maddie, he told her about her family and especially about her grandmother. Over the past few years, his daughter has shown signs of being able to perceive and interpret visions. Connie knew almost nothing about his family or what he taught Maddie. He told his wife he didn't want to talk about anything in his life before he left the military, and Connie didn't ask many questions. Okay, I'll call. Your mom won't be back until after 5 out tomorrow. We have a lot to do until then. Connie and Greg were getting dressed to go to work after spending the whole night together. Connie was disappointed. Greg could have sex, but didn't seem to know how to make love, which she admitted Jimmy was really good at. Her doctor lover was only good twice in 8 hours. She tried to arouse him a third time, but he failed. Her climaxes were fake. Connie realized that part of the thrill of sex with Dr. Zender, like with Alvary before him, was a secret, illicit part of their time together. Now that Jimmy knew, sex with someone else wasn't that exciting. Every time she had a few minutes of rest during her Monday afternoon shift, Connie thought about how she should end things with Greg and mend her relationship with Jimmy. After all, Greg's teacher wife will be moving here with their 2 children as soon as the school year ends. Connie could again become an exemplary wife, lover, and mother, and then, when everything returned to normal at home, find someone else for herself. Jimmy would never turn down sex with her or jeopardize his access to Maddie. Connie left the hospital at the end of her shift and headed to her car in the company parking lot. From a few feet away, she saw that all 4 tires were punctured. How childish, she thought. Well, here's a plan for you to do something nice when I get home. She tried to call Jimmy on his cell phone, but there was no answer. She asked one of her colleagues to lend her a phone. Connie's call to her husband's phone brought up the message, "Service on this number is no longer available." So he wanted to play dirty. Well, she can too. The threat of divorce alone might get him back on track, but she would have to watch him grovel. She used the phone again to call a taxi. On the way home, she thought of various ways to punish Jimmy. As Connie turned into her neighborhood, she noticed a column of smoke, followed by fire trucks and police cars. "Looks like one of our neighbors had a fire." The closer the taxi drove, the more clearly she realized that it was not her neighbor's house that was burning, but hers. Connie jumped out of the taxi, telling him to wait. As she rushed toward the house, the fire chief ordered her to stay away. "But this is my home. Where are my husband and daughter? Everything is all right with them?" "I think they're fine." "Your neighbor said she saw them drive away right after they set fire to a pile of clothes." "What?" Connie looked out into the yard and saw a pile of her clothes on fire. There were some things on top of the pile. After a few seconds, she realized that they were her wedding albums. Photos of that oh-so-expensive wedding she simply had to have disappeared into smoke. Looking at the house, she noticed that although the fire was under control, there was little left of the house she loved so much. Connie saw her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Jensen, standing on the sidewalk, watching. As she approached her neighbor, Mrs. Jensen frowned. "They are gone. I hope you're happy now." "What are you talking about, Mrs. Jensen?" "Jimmy and Maddie talked to me before they started the fire. They wanted to make sure my home was not in danger. They told me what you did. I can't believe you could treat this wonderful man and precious little girl so horribly. I hope it hurts you for a long time. It's just a misunderstanding." "Wait, are you saying that Jimmy started the fire? But he built this house with his own hands. This was our home, our beautiful home. Where are they? Your husband told me that since he built this house, he can destroy it." "It was just a house." Jimmy said, "A home stopped being a home when you decided to stop being a wife and mother. He burned the house. You burned the house down. Jimmy and Maddie are gone, honey. They plan to disappear to a place where you will never find them, and I hope they succeed." With these words, Mrs. Jensen shuffled away. Returning to the fire, the chief informed Connie that it would be several days before they could declare the house safe to search for any valuables that might have survived. He asked if she could go somewhere. After a pause, she said, "My parents." Back in the taxi, Connie gave the driver her parents' address. She had a lot of thoughts going through her head, which basically oscillated between two options. He would come back and ask for forgiveness and then build a new, even better house. Or, once I found him, I would royally fuck him in the divorce. In the midst of her internal debate, they reached her parents' house. When she went to pay for the taxi, the driver told her that her card had been rejected. She asked the driver to wait to collect the money from her father. She rang the bell, and for the first time today, tears came to her eyes. Connie needed emotional support from her parents. Harry opened the door, but not all the way. "What do you want?" "Dad, it's me, Connie. Let me in." "Something terrible happened." "Jimmy, I know what happened. Jimmy and Maddie stopped here on their way out of town. How could you? I loved him like the son I never had. She is our only granddaughter. We raised you better than... I'm afraid we can no longer consider you our daughter." "Dad, what are you talking about? It's just a misunderstanding. Jimmy will come back and I'll sort everything out. Let me talk to Mom." "Misunderstanding? Is that what you kids call it now? How can you? I've seen the photographs." Does he have photos? Oh my God. Where is Mom? I need to explain everything to her." The door didn't open any wider. "Your mother is in bed. The doctor had to prescribe a sedative. We're lucky she didn't have a heart attack when she saw the photos." "Did Jimmy show his mother the photographs? How could he?" "He didn't want to. But your mother said she would never believe that her daughter could do something so vile, so contrary to what she taught her, so contrary to what her religion taught her. So I handed her the photos, and as soon as she saw them, she fainted. She doesn't want to see you anytime soon, if at all." The door closed. She didn't have the courage to ask for money for a taxi. Connie returned to the taxi in tears. "Where to now?" he asked. It must be somewhere where you can get money. Connie decided that her credit card was no good either. After some thought, she gave the driver the address of her younger sister. Connie did not have a good relationship with Leslie, but her sister was a good aunt to Maddie. Leslie gained a reputation as a slut at school and fell out of favor with her parents. Connie wasn't sure how she would be received, but Leslie was her only family. This time the door swung wide open. Leslie had a knowing smile on her face. "Great. Good. I waited for you. Dad probably called you?" "No. Jimmy and Maddie came here on the way. I thought that Mom and Dad might not be receptive to their daughter cheating since they still aren't too happy with their slut daughter. Before we go in, can I ask you a big favor? Actually, 2 services. There's something wrong with my credit card and I need to pay for a taxi. And then, is it possible to stay with you for a while? Jimmy burned down our house. After a short mental discussion, Lisa softened. Okay, I guess I owe you one. Thank you. After paying the taxi driver and settling down on the sofa in her sister's living room, Connie asked, "What did you mean when you said you owed me? I don't remember lending anything to you recently. You didn't do this. I grew up in the shadow of Miss Goody Two-Shoes and her high grades, perfect looks and noble career. You made me sick. I was compared to you all the time, and I couldn't handle it. I became a failure, but it made me different from you, which is what I thought I wanted. Now you have made me a good daughter. Everyone loves Jimmy. How many times has he volunteered to use his carpentry skills to help one of your neighbors? Some kind of missionary group? This house was a shrine to you. And what did you do? You are throwing mud at him. My niece was the most fantastic child I have ever known. I will miss her so much. You had the most loving, devoted, caring, patient husband, and you reward him by tearing out his heart and trampling on it. I'll tell you what. If Jimmy comes back, I'll beg him to be with me. As much as I enjoy a variety of lovers, I would give my life and become the most devoted lover or wife the world has ever seen. You are a stupid, selfish, arrogant bitch, and I hope you suffer as much as he does. Don't be so subtle about your feelings for me," Connie said sarcastically. "You don't understand how much pressure I was under, how stressed I was. I needed it, and I deserved it. So I got some extra sex. Nothing important. Jimmy blew it all out of proportion. He overreacted and will pay. You need to go to a psychotherapist. The planet you live on is several million light years away from the planet everyone else lives on. There's no way to forgive what you did. It was just sex. It was adultery. It was a betrayal. Besides, you told him that he had to accept the fact that he was a cuckold, or you would keep him away from your daughter. They might as well have cut off his genitals and forced him to wear them around his neck. No real man will put up with what you do. And Jimmy is a real man. You can stay here for a while so I can enjoy your suffering." Well, at least now he can't do anything else. However, I can fight back. He took my daughter without my permission, and that's kidnapping. He will have to deal with the law. Let's see how he likes the bunk mates he gets in prison. Connie spent a restless night at her sister's. The next day, she left work to try to get her life in order. She discovered that everything that was in both of their names was now in her name only. Their joint checking account, mortgage, her car loan, credit card, cell phone, etc. At least half of their total assets were transferred into her personal savings account, so she had the funds to find a place and start changing her clothes and personal items. Toward the end of the day, she called the insurance company to report the fire and find out what they needed to do to get reimbursed. She was surprised to find that Jimmy had canceled his homeowner's fire insurance. There will be no insurance for the house. All Connie had was the lot on which the burned house stood. At least the house was paid off, so she didn't have to worry about paying off a mortgage on a house that no longer existed. It seemed like every few minutes she learned about something else, for which she was entirely responsible. She wasn't used to dealing with such minor problems. Jimmy took care of these details. Connie began to understand how much Jimmy contributed to their life together. Connie realized that she had mixed up a missing person report and a child abduction report. While a missing person could only be reported 48 hours after their departure, a kidnapping could be reported immediately. She went to the police station. The desk sergeant was very attentive when she said she wanted to report a kidnapping. Who was kidnapped? My 10-year-old daughter, Madeline Ray Pearson. So you are the mother? Yes, Connie Pearson. Is there a father? Yes, Jimmy Greyhawk. He kidnapped her. The sergeant's demeanor quickly changed. Jimmy Greyhawk, carpenter? So this is a custody dispute? Part of a divorce? No, he just took it and left. Didn't he burn down his house before leaving? Now a smile appeared on his face. Our house. He burned down our house. It's not funny. I'm sorry. Jimmy just made a lot of men happy with his daring gesture, especially those whose wives cuckolded them. Where? How do you know about this? I talked to the police who were at the fire. Plus, it's a small town. Rumors spread quickly. So will you help me or not? Connie asked. I'll do my job, the desk sergeant whispered to himself. It's a pity that you didn't make yours. Jimmy built a ramp for my mother so she wouldn't have to go to a nursing home. I'll do my job, but don't expect any favors. While Connie was seething with anger, the sergeant received the required uniform. Okay now. When did he allegedly kidnap his daughter? Somewhere between Sunday evening and 5:30 Monday evening. It's pretty vague. Well, I returned home after being on duty at the hospital only on Monday evening. That's when I found out. Do you have any idea where they might have gone? Not really. Jimmy never talked much about his family. He is Native American. He probably could have returned to the reservation. This is useful information. Which tribe and which reservation? I really do not know. There aren't that many tribes there, are there? Could you send out a patrol force or whatever you call it and ask the local police to look for him? I think there are more than 300 of them. You don't know much about Indian affairs, do you? Indian territories are almost the same as a foreign country. Most of them have their own system of government, so requests from whites are not treated in the same way as in other parts of the country. We could make flyers and see if the Interior Department would send them to the reservations. Do you know anything that could help narrow down my search? Not right away. Wait a minute. His boss served with Jimmy in the army. He might know something useful. Okay, go and talk to him. He might have a better reaction to you than the police. Meanwhile, do you have the latest photos of these two? Not with me. Jimmy was the one taking the pictures. Most were burned in the fire. Are you saying that you don't have a photo of your husband or daughter in your wallet or on your mobile phone? Wait, I have a photo of Maddie on my phone. Although she is already several years old, now she looks completely different. I think that tells us a lot about how you feel about your husband and daughter. He sighed. Sorry, but I really like Jimmy. Surely your parents have some recent photographs. Bring them when you get them. I'm too busy to worry about keeping photos in my wallet. That's what albums are for. Returning to work for the first time since the fire, Connie quickly noticed a change in the way others greeted her. There were no smiles. No one spoke to her unless she spoke first. Staff who usually called her by her first name now addressed her by her last name. After several frozen exchanges, Connie called Sheila aside. She had worked with Sheila for over 5 years, and they had what Connie would call a friendship. What's going on, Sheila? Why am I being treated like I'm toxic? That's a good description of how we feel. You're poisonous. We all know what you did with the doctors. We thought your husband must have known about it and was pleased. Thank God he wasn't as weak as everyone thought. The head of security let us know what kind of person your husband was. War hero and all that. And then there's your daughter. Equally important, doctors and nurses who fool around on duty put patients at risk. Several times I was unable to reach you when you were supposed to be on duty. One time you even had a drop of male seed on your face. Don't get me started. Either way, we'll do our job, but don't expect any favors from us. I'm over it. Sheila walked away. War hero? Jimmy was not a war hero. He is a carpenter. Someone is spreading lies. The next day, Connie didn't have a day shift, so he went to Jimmy's boss and friend, Milton. Connie pulled into the construction company parking lot and saw the space in front of the office sign. Entering the building, she walked up to the counter where Jimmy's boss stood. Hello, Milton? Is Jimmy working today? The construction manager replied, No, he came and quit on Monday. If he weren't such a good friend, I would have told him off for leaving without warning. After what he told me about what you did, I not only understand, but I support him 110%. Anything else? I'm busy. Do you have any idea where he and Maddie are? No, and if he had known, he would not have said it. You don't understand what I owe to this man. Milton thought he had tears in his eyes. Someone said he was a war hero. Wasn't he just a carpenter in the army? That was his story, to keep people at home from worrying, said Milton, chuckling. He was on the reconnaissance team. Because he was a Native American, they considered him a scout. His job was to lead any missions. Jimmy was the first to receive fire. Whatever guardian angel was watching over him must have been working double shifts. I can't tell you how many times he went into battle and came out without a scratch. He saved my ass several times. Did you know he earned both a bronze and a silver star? He didn't tell me anything about it, Connie insisted after a pause. You mentioned that he is Native American. Do you know what tribe or reservation he's from? Again, I don't know. I won't say. The only person he talked to about Indian affairs was his best buddy, Tommy White Elk. Where can I find him? Probably in the great hunting ground in the sky. Tommy was killed just before he and Jimmy were due to return home. But it's not Jimmy's fault. He dragged Tommy's wounded body through the crossfire and then returned for the other two. Tommy was already too far gone by the time he was taken away. For this, Jimmy received a silver star. And now I really have to go. Connie thought, great. Now I find out that I cheated on a war hero. I'd rather not say, at least it can't get any worse. Why didn't he ever tell me about his life before he left the army? I wish he was here to ask him. Damn, I was such a fool. The next day, when Connie showed up for work, she and Dr. Zander were called into the administrator's office. They said nothing to each other, deciding that the conference would not benefit them. Mr. Chambliss greeted them curtly. It has come to my attention that you two were having sexual relations on hospital grounds during business hours. Apparently, I'm the last person in the hospital who knows about this. When I first heard about this, I was inclined to place a letter of reprimand in your professional files. After calls from every hospital board member asking what I was going to do about this situation, it became clear that if I didn't fire you, I would be fired. In fact, my job is still in jeopardy, thanks to you. So you both stop working immediately. Security guards are waiting outside my door and will take you to your lockers to collect your personal items. In addition, you will both report to the licensing board for your profession. Based on previous similar cases, I think your licenses will be suspended for at least 1 year. Hopefully, the sex was good enough to compensate for the shame and humiliation, not to mention the loss of income you both took on. Now get out of my office. As they were leaving, Gregory approached Connie. Your asshole husband sent a letter and photos to my wife. Thank you very much, bitch. I never want to see you again. By the way, you may have a great body, but the sex wasn't that great. After emptying her locker, Connie sighed. No job, no home, no husband, no daughter, no friends, no family support to speak of. All I have is myself. What should I do now? While on the road with Maddie, Jimmy made the call. Hello, Turtle Mountain Nature Reserve. Hello. Can I talk to Hank Garcia? Wait a minute, who's calling? Perhaps it will be better if I don't tell. Okay, I'll see if he answers the call. A good minute or two of silence on the phone. This is Hank Garcia. Tell me who it is, or the call will end now. Hank, this is Jimmy Greyhawk. I want to come back. You have the nerve to call here. You are not welcome here. Wait, don't hang up. The Cloud Maiden's granddaughter is with me. After a few seconds of waiting, Hank continued. How old is she? Does she show any abilities? Maddie is 10 years old and started having visions a couple of years ago. She was the one who saw us returning. You know that very few people would agree to take you back. I know, but I have changed. I was a brash, immature, stupid fool who had abandoned my family and people. I can only beg the tribe for forgiveness. I'll be honest with you. Hank replied. If you didn't have a granddaughter, Cloud Maiden, I wouldn't even raise the issue of your return to the council. There is still no guarantee that they will even agree to accept you. As you said, her name? Maddie. This is short for Madeline. My mother, Cloud Woman, foresaw that I would have a daughter, and she helped me overcome my unreasonable hatred of my family and my people. She knew she wouldn't be here to teach her granddaughter, so she told me something I could do before returning her to be trained by the elders. She is young but very mature for her age. I can talk to the council, Hank suggested. Can you be here the day after tomorrow, 7 p.m.? What is your number so that I can tell for sure whether you will come or not? We are on the road that now goes north. We should be there by then. Jimmy gave Hank his number and hung up. Maddie tried to reassure her father. Don't worry, Dad. Cloud Woman will be with us. Jimmy received a call, and the council agreed to meet with them as soon as possible. The elders who remembered Cloud Woman were convincing enough to at least allow Jimmy to plead his case before the council. Jimmy and Matty met with the Turtle Mountain Council. Matty caught the men's attention. Questions started pouring in. What powers did you experience? Do you agree to study with a healer even if it means that you have to part with your father? Prove to us that you have the power of vision? Maddie was confused by these questions and gave short, honest answers. She admitted that she could not provide evidence of any skills. She was thanked and released. The healer, Little Dove, arrived and spoke with Maddie before the council meeting. What do you think about the abilities a little girl might have? Asked one of the council members. Cloud Woman was my spirit guide, and I felt her presence many times. Her spirit is strong in her granddaughter, but there is too much of the white man in her now. It will take a lot of work to figure out if she might be a strong connection to the spirit world. Do you think we should let her stay? Definitely. I would welcome a challenge from the teacher, and she seems very eager to learn. However, she made it clear that she and her father had entered into a package deal. You will have to accept both into the tribe, otherwise she will not stay. After the healer left, the council members were in full agreement that the girl would stay, but they were still reluctant to let Jimmy stay. Unable to reach a consensus, the council asked Hank's opinion. Hank invited them both to stay, but on the condition that Jimmy make some kind of apologetic gesture towards the tribe. If Maddie turns out to have no ability, they should both be sent away. Jimmy thought for a long time about what kind of apologetic gesture would be enough. He knew how to do carpentry, so he looked to see if the tribe needed to build something. He noticed that the medical clinic was in poor condition. The building was old, dirty, and plaster was falling off the walls. If people weren't sick before going there, they'd probably catch something there. A new clinic building would be his gesture. The woman who taught Maddie joined his daughter in choosing the best place for healing. Then the council had to approve. All that needed to be done now was to build it. Jimmy made a plan. This was not difficult, since he did most of the work on building the clinic in Nicaragua during a business trip. This time he had to buy all the materials himself. Then he had to build a clinic. The tribe had to watch Jimmy build the clinic. He didn't ask for help. Nobody offered to help. It took several months to build it, but it was built correctly. There was a blessing ceremony. From this point on, Jimmy was conditionally allowed to return to the tribe, but he was still on probation. Not everyone agreed with the decision to allow him to return. One night, Jimmy was captured while walking back to where he and Maddie were staying. He was stripped and flogged with green branches from a bush with large thorns. Now they will not only hurt, the scars will remain forever. They wanted Jimmy to understand that the punishment for betraying the tribe would last forever. Jimmy didn't cry the whole time. He trudged toward the house where Maddie applied ointment to his wounds. Maddie wanted revenge, but her father said that what they did was necessary to make some people believe that he had been punished enough. Several years have passed. Jimmy found a carpentry job at nearby oil fields and in the city. He traveled to work daily with several other men from the tribe. It was good money. During this time, flyers appeared with old photographs of Jimmy and Maddie, saying that they were missing. There was nothing said about the kidnapping. Then one day, flyers appeared that mentioned a $5,000 reward. Jimmy knew that there were many people on the reservation who would probably rent it out for much less money. Although Maddie no longer looked like her old photo, Jimmy still did. Maddie tanned and seemed to have turned into a beautiful 14-year-old girl. She was chosen to help sell authentic local jewelry to tourists and casino gamblers. No one seemed able to refuse her. Maddie only hoped that no buyer would force her to admit that although they were made by real natives, they were real natives, born and worked in China. One day, Maddie came to her father and said, "I had a vision that Mom would come." Jimmy knew that sooner or later the time would come when he would have to deal with Connie and her likely desire to take Maddie. His emotions were mixed and strong. "What do you think we should do, Cloud Woman?" Maddie's visionary abilities quickly grew under the tribe's tutelage and allowed her to take the same name as her grandmother. A very great honor. "It's time to sort this out," Maddie said. "I want to see her. You must see her." The following week, Maddie was selling jewelry to a group of tourists who had recently gotten off the tour bus. She saw a blonde woman looking around the gift shop and immediately knew who it was. Maddie approached the woman and asked, "Don't you love the craftsmanship of these necklaces? They would curl wonderfully around the neck of such a pretty woman." The woman turned to the teenage girl and felt her heart flutter. Something about this girl reminded her of Maddie, but she was taller, tanned, and had completely different hair. "And yet, would you smile at me, princess?" Maddie smiled, showing beautiful white teeth. Connie sighed. The Maddie she remembered had a large gap between her front teeth. This girl had perfect teeth. Connie was disappointed. "Yes, I would like to buy a necklace." While she and Maddie were exchanging remarks, Connie heard a voice behind her. "Hello, Connie." It was a long time ago. Connie didn't have to turn around. She knew exactly who was talking to her. It was her Jimmy. She closed her eyes, steeled herself, and opened her eyes, turning to greet him. She was surprised that his face seemed much more stern than she remembered. However, there was no smile on his face. She feared a much worse reception. She desperately wanted to hug him, but she didn't see anything in his eyes that made her believe he would be receptive. "Jimmy, I'm so glad to see you. I have so much to tell you, but please tell me where Maddie is. I'm dying to see her." "Come back." Maddie was still standing there, but now she was smiling with tears in her eyes. "Hello, Mom. I missed you." Tight hugs and more tears followed. "I missed you too, honey. You've grown so much. You are simply amazing. I can't believe I sent you both away. I'm very sorry, very sorry." More hugs, more tears. Finally, she turned to Jimmy and said, "I'm not here to open old wounds. I would like to be able to apologize and spend as much time with Maddie as possible." "Are you going to try to take her with you?" "No, I don't want to ruin your life again. I just want to be with Maddie for as long as you let me. What about your job and boyfriend or husband? When I was sure you two were here, I quit my job and put my things in storage. Since you left, I haven't had a boyfriend or husband. I dated some, but no relationships worked out. You taught me a harsh lesson, but I deserve it. I haven't been with anyone since you left. I didn't want to start a new relationship until I healed my old one. I didn't start a new relationship either. The reason is that I was afraid that I could no longer trust a woman. It didn't work the first time. By the way, we're divorced, aren't we? Yes, I had to file for divorce to get government benefits that I needed to survive after my nursing license was suspended." "Are you no longer a nurse?" "A year later, my license was returned. It was difficult to find a job that paid as well as what I was earning before, but I was able to support myself and save some money. I even went back to school and got my APRN. Is there anything Maddie needs that you'll let me buy for her?" Jimmy looked offended. "No. Maddie has everything she needs." Finally, a smile appeared on his lips. "And almost everything she wants. She's already a teenager." Maddie joined the conversation. "Mom, you won't stay for long, right?" "It's up to you two to decide. I have a room booked at the Economy Lodge Hotel." "Ugh, this place is full of bed bugs. You will stay with us," Maddie spoke with the confidence that only a teenager can demonstrate. "No, I can't force myself on you and your father, baby." First of all, I'm not a child, and we have a spare bedroom. Now let's get your luggage. No, I need to talk to your father first. Maddie and I have already discussed everything, Jimmy intervened. It will be much easier for you to spend time with Maddie if you live with us. I trust you understand that this does not mean any renewal of the relationship between you and me. You will be there as Maddie's mother and nothing more. Certainly. I understand. I hope you'll let me help with cooking and other things. I won't feel good if I don't stay. Phew, I hope your cooking has improved. Sorry, Mom, but your cooking sucks. After all three chuckled, Jimmy told Connie to go to her room while he drove up in the Jeep to pick her up and her things. The trip was short, as they passed through the tourist part of the reservation and ended up in one of the residential areas. They stopped in front of a house that, like all the others around it, had a Western Plains theme. Wooden and Indian decorations predominated inside. Jimmy carried Connie's luggage into the spare bedroom. Connie looked around the room and noticed that it definitely had a feminine feel to it. "Is this your room, Maddie?" "It was Songbird's room," Maddie said again. "She is my father's cousin, who helped us until we needed to take care of our father. I'm big enough now that we don't need much help to take care of me, but it would be nice if you could help a little." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she gasped. "I'm so glad to see you again, Mom." "Jimmy, I need to talk to you first. You may not want to listen to what I have to say, but I have to say it." Her ex-husband said nothing, but stood there. I denied for a long time that I had done anything wrong, even though everyone, and I mean everyone, told me that I had seriously screwed up. It was only when my mother finally spoke to me that it dawned on me. Seeing the tears and suffering I put her, my own daughter, through and being the reason she couldn't see her only granddaughter. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I went to see a therapist and began to become what I hope is a better person. I know these are just words, but I hope you can see enough change in me to allow me to get to know my daughter again. I can never hope that you will forgive me, and I'm ready to live with that. I ruined my life and the life of my family. I deserve all the punishment you gave me and more. All I can say now is that I'm very sorry." Jimmy remained standing without any expression on his face. In his mind, he said to himself, "She's right about one thing. They're just words. Maddie wants her here, so I'll put up with Connie as long as I can." As the weeks passed, a routine settled into the house that seemed to suit everyone. Connie did most of the housework and spent a lot of time getting to know Maddie and learning a lot about the tribe. Connie was careful not to show Jimmy any intimate parts of her body or make any attempts that he might consider flirting. The conversations at the dinner table were comparable to those from their past lives, although Connie's work schedule as a nurse in their past life often prevented them all from being together. One evening, Connie asked Jimmy if they could talk. "I've been here for several weeks now, and I've enjoyed every minute I've spent with you and Maddie. I think it's time to talk about where we will go next." "You're not going to take Maddie back where we came from?" Jimmy asked angrily. "I won't." "Hell no, Jimmy. That's not at all what I'm saying. I don't want to leave with Maddie. That's not the problem. I mean, I can't continue living off of you two. I think, first of all, I need a job. I talked to the people at the reservation clinic, and they offered me a job. Long hours and low pay. How could I refuse?" Connie tried to liven up the conversation. "It's time to talk about whether I need to get my own home. Don't you like it here?" "I like it here. I just don't know if you like my presence or not. We both probably have good and bad memories from the time we were married. But watching you, I couldn't understand whether you wanted me to stay here. Sometimes you look happy, and sometimes you look like a man who is ready to burn down the house he built with his own hands. I'm asking what you think would be better?" Jimmy didn't allow himself to think about the future. He took every moment on its own. His heart was protected from ever trusting her again. However, Connie seemed to really change and was as good or better than when they first got married. "I think I need to think a little more. Maybe it would be easier for you to make a decision if I weren't here. There's a room for rent in Montana that I can afford, and it's not that far away. Tomorrow I will move my things there. Whatever you decide, I want you to know that I will always be grateful to you and Maddie for allowing me to be a part of your life again, even though I can't say I have the right to. Later that night, Connie woke up to the sound of crying. Ignoring the fact that she was only wearing a small nightgown, she rushed into Maddie's room. Opening the door, she saw that her daughter was fast asleep. Turning around, she realized that the crying was coming from Jimmy's bedroom. Connie approached his door cautiously. The door opened quietly, and she saw Jimmy sitting on the edge of the bed in his underpants, holding his head in his hands and sobbing. She came over, sat down next to him, and began to cry too. "Jimmy, what's the matter, honey? Is there anything I can do? My presence here is only making things worse." Connie ran her hand down his back and felt the numerous scars that she had never seen before. "Oh God, Jimmy, what's happened?" "It was part of what I had to go through to get back into the tribe's good graces." "Horrible. It's all my fault. None of this would have happened if I had just been faithful. I thought I suffered a lot, but I was never physically punished." "Sorry, baby. Please tell me, what can I do to make things better?" After taking several deep breaths to compose himself, Jimmy spat. "I don't deserve this. You won't stay here. I can't stand it anymore. It's just too hard. I'm really sorry. I hurt you in ways I never could have imagined. I'm such a fool. I'll leave first thing in the morning. I'm really sorry." She stood up to go back to her room. Jimmy grabbed her hand. "My problem is that I can't be around you now without wanting to be with you, like I did when we were married. You're so beautiful, and I keep thinking about the times we made love and just sat and held each other. My heart literally hurts when I see you. The part of me that hated you for betraying our family is slowly being eaten away. I know that's not what you came here for, so I think it's best if you come home. It was unbearable for me to know that you were nearby and not just left this house. I promise that Maddie will be able to come for a long time, and you will be a welcome guest here anytime you want." Connie also began to cry and, gathering her courage, said, "Jimmy, I wasn't sure what I wanted from you when I came here. I couldn't believe that you could ever forgive me. I've been praying for a long time that you and Maddie would give me another chance. I want to stay. I want with all my heart to be your wife again. And I promise to never again give you a reason to doubt my love and devotion. If you want me to leave, I will leave. But that's not what I want to do." Jimmy was silent. Connie moved from hugging to kissing, trying to see as much of his scars as possible. Finally, she reached his face and took his head in her hands. Her touches and kisses were better than what he remembered. He gave in and kissed back passionately. The couple hugged, cried, laughed, and kissed for several minutes. A new routine has begun. Jimmy continued to work as a carpenter, and Connie worked long hours due to limited nursing staff. Remarriage was not discussed. Separate bank accounts were maintained, and Connie paid her share. Although she and Jimmy slept together again, she used the guest bedroom on the nights she came home late and tired. This was the easiest thing to do. Maddie went to school and continued to work with her spiritual director. In some ways, it seemed like the old days were back, just with a Native American background. This should have been a clue. Old bad habits returned like old good ones. One day Jimmy returned home early due to bad weather, and no carpentry work was needed indoors. He was there to greet Maddie when she returned home. "Hey, Maddie, you're a little late, aren't you? Have you stayed anywhere?" "Yes, Dad, we need to talk." "I don't like the sound of that. Problems with a boy?"
"No, problems with a woman." Jimmy's first thought was that she was going to come out as a lesbian, but he quickly dismissed that thought. She talked too much about boys. "What or who do you mean?" "It's Mom again." Horror struck Jimmy in the heart. "No, not again. Did you see something in the vision?" "No, this time with my own eyes. I went to my mother's clinic for a minute and saw her leaving the room with Dr. Patel. He forgot to zip up, and his mother was wiping something from her mouth. I went to the front door, opened it, but didn't come out. I acted as if I had just walked in. Mom greeted me and we talked a little. She looked damn guilty. We said goodbye, and I again pretended to leave. I was standing right outside her office door when she said to Dr. Patel, "We have to be more careful.
I heard them kissing before I left. Jimmy withdrew into himself, as he often did in stressful situations. Maddie changed the subject. Talking about visions, I'm losing my strength. Looks like puberty might mess them up. My spiritual director warned me about this. Soon I will be useless to the tribe. You know some council members will want to kick us out. I've enjoyed our time here, but I think we can leave without feeling guilty. I've made some good friends, but you're the only one I can't lose. So, you think it's time to leave again? Absolutely right. Where to this time? Hawaii sounds good. They probably need carpenters there. She smiled. I don't think there's a Chippewa reservation there. Jimmy smiled back. Then we can begin. When do we leave? Jimmy asked. As soon as we get ready. Oh, I have one request. Jimmy guessed and expressed his opinion. Oh, no, not this. Please, it was so fun. Okay, but we have to be careful, and this time we take all our money. She has what she has on her own account. Connie heard the sirens wail. A recent conversation with Maddie helped her draw the necessary conclusions. She ran out of the clinic and ran to the house she shared with Jimmy and Maddie. She made the right decision. After all, Maddie had seen her with Dr. Patel. Damn, how could I be so selfish and arrogant again? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.